Okay, so this is going to be commentary for the 12th chapter of my book, Metadimensional. The chapter is called Unforeseen Consequences, and you can read it on Kindle or listen to it for free on Google Play, and the links are in the description. Okay, so Unforeseen Consequences. Consequences of what? So first, the name is... if you ever played the game Half-Life, there's like a chapter there that's called Unforeseen Consequences there. So okay, but what so I like that game when I was young. But what is consequences of? So remember how we got here. I started by just like thinking about what are real dimensions and what are just symbolic dimensions. And then I kind of realized that there's some kind of relation between experience and dimensions, because only experience can confirm the existence of dimensions. And continued on to try to understand what's the relation between dimensions and experience, and realize that the three-dimensionality of reality is actually mirroring experiential requirements, and which kind of suggests that reality does not produce experience, but rather is a product of experience, like reality as we know it, the wakeful reality. And from here to there, come to this theory where the experience is fundamental, nothing produces it, and rejects solipsism. And then you come to a reality. That reality is describing this position where you have experience, and you have other elements, fundamental dimensions, are completely separate from it, independent of it. They are just inspiring the perception. And in that reality, what can mobilize time? See, the thing this theory does to time is, it kind of turns it upside down. So what can mobilize time other than experience? The only thing that can mobilize time, the only element in the cosmology of such a theory is experience. So when you start from saying that experience is fundamental, you realize that time is experiential time. There is no... Since there is no reality other than perceptual reality, there's nothing. The only place where all the aspects of reality integrate are in perception. Then, well, the only time there is in perception too. So the only thing that can mobilize perception is experience. If there is no world that produces it. Which is weird enough, and it kind of like makes sense if you think about time dilations, the fact that the speed at which you move changes the progression of time. Although there is some tricky parts of that, like if you can move, like let's say an atomic clock, and you can show time dilations even if you don't travel with it, but you can argue that experience just chooses the reality where its experiential concerns are not alien to the limitations of time, the progression of time. Anyway, so what is the progression of time? Progression of time is like experience progressing. But when is experience not making choices? Implicitly it makes a choice all the time. At least that's what it feels like. That everything is there's a bit of a choice, and a bit of a constraint. So a bit of a bodily constraint and a bit of an experiential choice. And every time you make a choice, that's a breach of the laws of nature. Because if you actually are making choices and not just obeying a body, then you're not just obeying the laws of nature. And if you're not obeying the laws of nature, then you're breaching the laws of nature. So what you get is that you have the only time there is experiential time, and every single moment there's a breach uh, of wakeful causality. And so, like, we think about time as some kind of like a function where you have no choice whatsoever, and actually you have no variability whatsoever, and actually it's the other way around. You have variability all over the place, which kind of explains why we have so much, where we get physical randomness from. So, and you could then say, okay, everything I know about time is useless, doesn't make any sense. Well, that's not so much the case, because again, this reality is not just experience. Another part of the theory is the rejection of solipsism, and the rejection of solipsism implies the existence of other things that are not experience. And that is the reality we're describing. And those other things, even if they don't mobilize time, they do give it structure, the progression of time. And it's not as if time exists in that objective substrate you perceive. It's not, in the fundamental dimensions. It's not that, but it does give it structure. And if something appears as if you have, like, let's say, evidence of things that happened in the past, then it's not that it happened in the past. The evidence shows that things happened in the past, because there is no past. Where is let's say you start a computer game, and you start the game with a story telling you an exposition about a kingdom that existed 3,000 years prior. Of course, there was no 3,000 years prior. The game wasn't written 3,000 years prior. But it still can show it to you. So all that time that you think, that you believe there existed based on the evidence, doesn't prove that it existed. What it does prove, however, is the structure that the body imposes on your perception in the present, and how layered it is, and how many constraints are embedded in that structure. That because you perceive this body, because you perceive this the objective substrate, not perceive it, but inspired by it, then your perception gets to have structure, gets to have order, gets to be predictable. So the things that you see in the present, like, say, fossils or whatever, that just shows that the structure of reality in the present is one where you cannot just undo it. There are what you interpret as years of evolution, even though it never actually necessarily happened, and even though every moment is a breach of the laws of nature, but there's still the progression path embedded in your present. And if you observe evidence of evolution by natural selection, you're actually seeing how deeply ingrained is the structure and the order of reality, so that if you ever wanted to break away from that order, you'd need to have evidence on the magnitude of the evidence of evolution through natural selection that you can find in nature. Like, you need something of that magnitude to create a metatemporal evolution, a change that would challenge the way the things are in the present.